Welcome to Crush Talk, the podcast where your passions become conversations, and boy, do we have a passion for this one. Today, we're going deep into the world of body language. You know, those subtle cues, those silent signals, all that fascinating stuff.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. We're constantly sending and receiving messages without even saying a word.
Exactly. It's like we're all speaking a secret language, even if we're not fluent.
Right, absolutely. And the thing is, we've got some incredible sources to unpack today all about this hidden world. We've got research from behavioral investigator Vanessa Van Edwards, interviews with experts, all kinds of juicy insights.
So get ready to unlock a whole new level of understanding in your interactions, because this deep dive is all about helping you decode those silent signals. You know, the ones that can make or break a first impression, influence a negotiation, or even deepen a relationship.
And the crazy thing is, our brains are actually wired to trust these nonverbal cues more than words, like way more. Yeah. Van Edwards says that our brains are something like 12.5 times more likely to believe gestures over words. It's like our ancient instincts are telling us, hey, pay attention to what their body's doing, not just what they're saying.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So it's like actions really do speak louder than words, right?
Exactly. It's because body language is often a more genuine expression of what's going on internally. It's harder to fake, especially when you're under pressure.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Like, you know when someone says they're fine, but their whole demeanor is screaming otherwise?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
It's like their body language is betraying their true feelings.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to learn how to read these signals.
So where do we even begin? I mean, there are so many different ways we communicate non-verbally.
Right. There are facial expressions, gestures, posture, tone of voice, the clothes we wear, even our hairstyle.
Whoa, it's like a whole symphony of signals.
It is. And Van Edwards breaks it down into 4 main channels.
4, okay, I'm listening.
So first, you've got body language. That's the most obvious one. Facial expressions, gestures, posture, all that.
Right.
Then there are vocal cues, like your tone of voice, how fast or slow you speak, your volume, all that jazz.
Okay, makes sense.
And then we can't forget about the actual words we choose, right? Those are verbal cues.
Yeah, of course. Words matter.
They do. But then there's this 4th layer, what she calls ornaments.
Ornaments. Like Christmas decorations.
Not quite, but it's the same idea. It's about how we adorn ourselves. So clothing, jewelry, hairstyles, tattoos, even piercings.
Wow, I never thought of those as communication tools.
They totally are. They all contribute to the overall message we're sending, whether we realize it or not.
That's fascinating. So we've got these 4 channels of cues, and they're all sending signals about how we feel and what we think.
Right. And all of that impacts how other people perceive us. I mean, think about it. When you meet someone for the first time, you're instantly making judgments about them based on these nonverbal cues.
It's like our brains are constantly trying to figure people out, even before they open their mouths.
Exactly. And that brings us to some groundbreaking research from Dr. Susan Fisk. She's done some incredible work on how we judge people, and it turns out it all boils down to 2 main dimensions.
Oh, lay it on me.
Warmth and competence. Those are the 2 biggies.
Warmth and competence, huh? I think I've heard those terms before. But what do they really mean in this context?
Well, warmth is all about trustworthiness, likability, friendliness. You know, those qualities that make someone feel approachable and safe to be around.
Okay, I get it. Like, you know, someone who just has that warm, inviting energy. You feel like you could tell them anything.
Exactly. And that's someone who's projecting warmth.
So what about competence?
Well, competence signals things like power, reliability, capability. Think of someone who walks into a room and commands attention. They exude confidence, expertise, maybe even a little bit of authority.
Ah, I see. So warmth is about connection, and competence is about, well, being competent.
You got it. And the fascinating thing is that both of these dimensions are super important for how people perceive us.
I bet. So, like, if someone is high in warmth but low in competence, they might come across as friendly, but maybe not very capable.
Right. Or someone who's high in competence but low in warmth might seem really smart and capable, but also kind of cold or aloof.
Oof, yeah. I definitely wouldn't want to work for that kind of boss.
No, probably not. So finding the right balance between warmth and competence is crucial for making a positive impression and building strong relationships.
It's like you need both the heart and the brains to really connect with people.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Even really smart people can struggle if they're not projecting the right balance of warmth and competence. They might be perceived as intimidating or unapproachable, even if they're genuinely good people.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we start cultivating this ideal blend of warmth and competence? Where do we even begin?
Well, one surprising insight comes from a study on likability. And you know what they found? The most popular kids in school weren't necessarily the smartest or the most athletic.
Really? So what was their secret weapon?
They were the ones who had a long list of people they genuinely liked.
Wait, what? So it's not about waiting for people to like you, it's about being the first to like them.
Exactly. It's about taking the initiative to show genuine interest and affection for others.
That's kind of counterintuitive, but I like it. So are we supposed to go around handing out compliments like candy?
No, not necessarily. But it can be as simple as offering a sincere compliment, remembering someone's birthday, or just taking the time to really listen when they're talking.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about putting that positive energy out into the world and watching it come back to you.
Right. And when we're talking about first impressions, we can't forget about something called resting bothered face. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, RBF. I think we all know a few people who suffer from that.
It's pretty common, actually. And it's unfortunate because most people with RBF aren't even aware of it. They might be feeling perfectly content, but their facial expression is saying, don't even think about talking to me.
Yeah, it's like their face is permanently stuck in a scowl.
Yeah.
Even if they're secretly a total sweetheart.
Exactly. And the problem is that can really sabotage their first impressions.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in a professional setting. You don't want to be sending those signals.
Right. So what can you do if you suspect you might have RBF? Well, the first step, as with most things, is awareness.
Okay, so pay attention to your facial expressions. Got it. But what if you're just naturally a bit more serious looking? Are you doomed to RBF forever?
Not at all. Once you're aware of it, you can start to consciously counteract it. Maybe relax your eyebrows a bit, try a slight smile, or just focus on maintaining a neutral expression. It might feel a little weird at first, but with practice, it becomes more natural.
So it's like fake it till you make it.
Kind of, but not really faking it. It's more about bringing conscious attention to your expressions and making a deliberate effort to project a more approachable image.
That makes sense. It's like anything else. You have to practice to get good at it.
Exactly. And trust me, the effort is worth it. A more approachable expression can open doors to better connections and opportunities.
I can totally see that. Okay, so we've talked about warmth, competence, and the dreaded RBF. What else do we need to know about navigating this complex world of social cues?
Well, have you ever been in a situation where someone gives you a negative cue, like an eye roll or a dismissive tone, and it just totally throws you off your game?
Ugh, yes. All the time. It's like their negativity sucks the energy right out of the room.
Exactly, and that's what we call the cue cycle. It's like a downward spiral of bad vibes.
Okay, tell me more about this cue cycle. It sounds kind of terrifying.
Well, it starts when we receive a negative cue from someone. Maybe they cut you off mid-sentence, or they roll their eyes when you're sharing an idea. Whatever it is, that negative cue triggers a reaction in us.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, nobody likes to feel disrespected or dismissed.
Exactly. And the problem is when we receive that negative cue, we tend to internalize it. We might start doubting ourselves, feeling insecure, or even getting defensive.
I've definitely been there. It's like their negativity starts to infect you.
And here's the kicker. When we're feeling those negative emotions, it affects our own body language and behavior. We might withdraw, get defensive, or even start mirroring that negativity back to the other person.
So it's like a vicious cycle. Their negativity breeds more negativity.
Exactly. And that's how the cue cycle keeps spinning.
So how do we break free from this cycle of doom? Do we just have to avoid all negative people forever?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, it's not always possible. But the good news is there are strategies for interrupting the cue cycle. And one of the most effective is simply to label the negative cue when you see it.
Label it. Like put a sticky note on their forehead that says, eye roller.
No, not quite. It's more of a mental exercise. So let's say someone rolls their eyes while you're talking. Instead of letting that get to you, just mentally say to yourself, eye roll.
That's it. Just acknowledge it and move on.
Exactly. That simple act of labeling the negative cue can help you detach from the emotional impact of it.
So it's like saying, I see what you did there, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day.
Exactly. You're taking back control of your own emotions and preventing yourself from getting sucked into that spiral of negativity.
I love that. It's like a mental shield against bad vibes.
It really is. And the more you practice this technique, the easier it becomes to stay calm, composed, composed and positive, even when you're faced with negativity.
This is all such great stuff. I feel like I'm already starting to see the world in a whole new way.
That's what we love to hear.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to explore. But for now, I think we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more juicy insights on how to master the art of body language.
Don't go anywhere, Crush Talk fans. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
And we're back with Crush Talk, where we're crushing it with body language.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about the cue cycle, that nasty spiral of negativity. And, I'm all about staying positive and projecting good vibes. So how can we use body language to, boost our confidence and project competence?
That's a great question. And there are actually a ton of subtle cues we can use to signal confidence and capability.
Okay, I'm ready to level up my communication game. Hit me with some of these secret weapons.
All right, let's start with a simple one, something called the steeple.
The steeple. What in the world is that? Sounds like something you'd see in a church.
You're not wrong. It kind of looks like that. It's a hand gesture where you gently touch your fingertips together, kind of forming a triangle shape.
Okay, I think I've seen people do that before. Usually it's like politicians or CEOs, right?
Exactly. It's a posture often seen in leaders and people who exude confidence. And there's a reason for that. The steeple conveys a sense of composure, thoughtfulness, and authority.
Wow, all without saying a word. That's pretty powerful.
It is, and it's super subtle, so people don't even realize they're being influenced by it.
I'm going to try that out in my next meeting. What else do we have?
All right, let's talk about posture. Specifically, something called ear-shoulder distance.
Ear-shoulder distance. Never heard of it.
It refers to the amount of space between your earlobe and your shoulder.
Wait, so the distance between my ear and my shoulder actually matters. How does that work?
Think about it. When we're feeling anxious or stressed, we tend to hunch our shoulders up, which brings our ears closer to our shoulders.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like we're trying to make ourselves smaller, disappear into the background.
And that posture conveys a lack of confidence, maybe even a bit of insecurity.
Yikes, I definitely don't want to be sending those signals.
Right. So what you want to do is maximize that ear-shoulder distance. It's all about creating a more open and expansive posture.
So shoulders back, chest out, like a superhero.
You got it. Good posture not only projects confidence, but it can actually make you feel more confident too. It's like a positive feedback loop.
Okay, I'm all about that positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
So what about eye contact? That's a big one, right?
It is, but it's not as simple as just staring someone down. In fact, that can be pretty off-putting. The key is to make direct eye contact at the end of your sentences.
Oh, interesting. So it's like you're punctuating your words with a look that says, I mean it.
Exactly. It's a subtle way to hold someone's attention and make your words resonate. And there's this little bonus tip. You can also try something called the lower lid flex.
The lower lid flex. What's that?
It's when you slightly harden your lower eyelids as you're listening to someone.
Oh, yeah, I've seen people do that before. It's like they're laser focused on you.
Right. It's a subconscious cue that signals focused attention. And it makes the other person feel heard and understood, which is huge for building rapport.
I'm adding that to my mental toolbox for sure. Okay, so we've got the steeple, ear-shoulder distance, strategic eye contact, and the lower lid flex. These are some seriously ninja-level communication skills.
Right. And remember, these power cues are all about projecting competence. But we don't want to forget about warmth, right?
Oh, right. It's all about finding that balance like we were talking about before.
Exactly. So let's switch gears and talk about some cues that can boost likability and make you seem more approachable.
I'm all ears. How do we dial up the warmth?
Well, one of my favorites is the triple nod.
The triple nod. So just nod 3 times. Sounds easy enough.
It is simple, but the key is to nod slowly and deliberately, as if you're really absorbing what the other person is saying. It encourages them to keep talking and shows you're engaged and interested.
So it's like a nonverbal way of saying, tell me more. I'm hanging on your every word.
Exactly. And you know what's crazy? Research has shown that people actually talk longer when they're being triple nodded at.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm definitely going to start using that one. What else?
Another great one is the head tilt.
You mean like when you're listening to a juicy secret?
Exactly. But it also conveys empathy and warmth, especially when you're delivering sensitive information.
Interesting. So even when you're not gossiping, a little head tilt can go a long way.
Absolutely. And here's something that might surprise you. Studies have shown that even when delivering bad news, a slight head tilt can make you more likable.
Really? That's counterintuitive. But I guess it makes sense. It's like you're saying, I care about how this affects you, even if the message itself is tough.
Right. It's all about signaling that you're on their side, even when the situation is difficult.
Okay, I'm adding head tilt to my list of warmth cues. What else do we have?
Well, we can't forget about the power of a genuine smile.
Okay, I know smiling is good, but is there really a right way and a wrong way to smile?
There is. A fake smile can be more off-putting than no smile at all. But a genuine smile, one that reaches your eyes, is contagious. It makes you more approachable, and it actually makes you feel happier, too.
I'm all about spreading those good vibes.
Yeah.
What else can we do to project warmth?
We can also use our bodies to signal openness and connection. One way is to subtly lean in towards the person you're talking to.
Okay, that seems a little tricky. Too much leaning, and it could get weird, right?
Absolutely. It's all about finding the right balance. A slight lean in shows that you're engaged, but you always want to be respectful of the other person's space.
Got it. Read the room, lean in cautiously, and always keep it respectful. So what about physical touch? Is that ever appropriate?
It can be. We call it a nonverbal bridge. It could be something as simple as a handshake, a light touch on the arm, or even just extending a hand to help someone up.
It's like you're creating a physical connection to reinforce the emotional connection.
Exactly. It's something we do naturally with people we're close to, but using it strategically with others can help foster a sense of closeness and camaraderie.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this fits together. So we've got power cues and warmth cues, and we can use them to create a more positive and authentic presence.
Right. And once you start to become aware of these cues, you can use them to your advantage in all sorts of situations, from job interviews to first dates to networking events.
And I bet they can also help us have deeper, more meaningful conversations.
Absolutely. So often we get stuck in that rut of small talk, exchanging information without really connecting. But what if we could use these cues and insights to go beyond the surface and have conversations that really matter? It's about asking those deeper questions, the ones that really get to the heart of who someone is and what they care about.
I love that. So ditch the what do you do and go for something more meaningful.
Exactly. Instead of asking, what do you do? Try something like, what are you working on that's really exciting you right now?
Ooh, I like that. It invites them to share their passions, not just their job title.
Exactly. Or you could ask, what's your biggest goal right now?
These are great. It's like you're saying, I see you as a whole person, not just a collection of facts.
And when you ask these questions with genuine curiosity and warmth, it creates a space for vulnerability and authenticity.
So we're not just exchanging information, we're actually building a connection.
Right. And speaking of connection, have you ever thought about the connection between body language, social cues, and personal branding?
I haven't really made that connection before. Tell me more.
Well, our brains are constantly creating neural networks, which are basically pathways that connect ideas, emotions, and experiences. And personal branding taps into these networks to create specific associations and impressions in the minds of others.
So it's not just about having a logo or a tagline. It's about using everything we've been talking about, body language, vocal cues, even our clothing, to tell a story about who we are.
Exactly. It's about strategically choosing cues that resonate with your ideal audience and convey your unique personality and expertise.
Okay, so it's not about being fake or trying to be someone you're not. It's about being intentional with how we present ourselves.
Exactly. And when you align your personal brand with your core values and express yourself authentically, you attract the right people and opportunities into your life.
It's like you're sending out a beacon that says, this is who I am, come find me.
And the best part is, when you're being true to yourself, you don't have to force it. Your body language, your words, your entire presence will naturally reflect who you are.
I love that. So we've talked about warmth, competence, first impressions, deeper conversations, even personal branding. What else is there to uncover in this deep dive into body language?
Well, let's talk about relationships, specifically those tricky, ambivalent relationships that can leave us feeling drained and confused.
Ambivalent relationships. I've heard of toxic relationships, but this is a new one for me. What are we talking about here?
Ambivalent relationships are those where you're constantly unsure about the other person's feelings and intentions. You're not sure if they like you, support you, or even genuinely want to be around you. It's a constant state of uncertainty.
Oh, I think I've definitely experienced that before. It's like you're always walking on eggshells, never knowing what to expect.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, research suggests that these ambivalent relationships can be even more draining than toxic ones.
Wow, really? Why is that?
Well, at least with a toxic relationship, you know where you stand. The other person is clearly negative or harmful. But with an ambivalent relationship, you're always second-guessing yourself, trying to decipher mixed signals.
That makes sense. It's like you can never relax because you're constantly on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. And that takes a toll on your emotional well-being.
So how do you deal with these ambivalent relationships? Is it better to try to fix things or just walk away?
There's no easy answer, unfortunately. Every situation is unique. But one thing's for sure, lingering in that state of uncertainty is rarely beneficial.
So it sounds like you need to make a conscious choice. Either invest in deepening the relationship and trying to create more clarity, or create some healthy distance.
Right. And it starts with honest self-reflection. Ask yourself, does this relationship bring me joy? Do I feel supported and respected? Or am I constantly trying to please this person and second-guessing their every move?
Those are great questions. It's about taking a step back and honestly assessing whether the relationship is serving you or draining you.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to let go of relationships that no longer serve you, even if it's difficult. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to create space for healthier, more fulfilling connections.
It's all about setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing your own emotional well-being.
Now, what about those times when you feel like someone's not being completely honest with you? That brings us to the fascinating and slightly unsettling topic of deception.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Can we really use body language and social cues to spot a liar? I feel like that's straight out of a spy movie.
Well, it's not quite as simple as Hollywood makes it seem. Most people are actually pretty bad at detecting lies. Studies have shown that the average person can only identify a lie with about 54% accuracy.
Wow, that's barely better than chance. So much for my dreams of being a human lie detector.
Right. It's a good reminder that we shouldn't overestimate our lie detecting abilities. But with that said, there are some subtle cues that liars often exhibit, and being aware of these can make us a little more attuned to potential inconsistencies.
Okay, give me the cheat sheet. What should I be looking for?
One thing to watch for is a sudden change in vocal inflection, especially when someone is stating a fact or a number. Remember how we talked about downward inflection conveying confidence? Well, if someone suddenly uses an upward inflection when they should be stating something straightforward, it can be a red flag.
So it's like their voice is betraying their uncertainty, even if their words are trying to sound convincing.
Exactly. Another vocal cue is a noticeable drop in volume, often accompanied by a loss of breath.
It's like they're running out of steam, both literally and figuratively.
Precisely. When we're under stress, our bodies go into fight or flight mode, and that can affect our breathing and our voice. And speaking of inconsistencies, another common giveaway is incongruent nonverbal communication.
Oh, you mean like when someone says yes but shakes their head no?
Exactly. Our brains are wired to pick up on those mismatches, and it triggers a sense that something's not quite right. And finally, pay attention to micro-expressions. Specifically, look for fleeting flashes of disgust.
Disgust. What does that look like in a micro-expression? Is it like a full-on grimace?
No, it's much more subtle than that. It's a quick crinkling of the nose, maybe a slight purse of the lips, a flash of the upper teeth. Disgust is a primal emotion, and it's hard to conceal, even for skilled liars.
So you're saying that even if they're trying to maintain a poker face, that little flash of disgust might leak out.
Exactly, and it could be a sign that they're uncomfortable with what they're saying.
This is all so insightful. I'm going to be paying much closer attention to these cues from now on. But it's important to remember that even with this knowledge, we shouldn't jump to conclusions, right? Just because someone shows one of these cues doesn't automatically mean they're lying.
You got it. Body language is just one piece of the puzzle. People are complex, and their behavior is influenced by so many factors. It's important to consider the context, their overall demeanor, and your prior interactions with them.
Right, so be observant, but don't become a total skeptic.
Exactly. And even as we learn more about body language and social cues, it's crucial to approach our interactions with empathy and compassion. We never really know what's going on in someone else's head or heart.
That's such an important reminder. We're all just doing our best to navigate this crazy thing called life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think we've officially crushed it on this deep dive into body language. We've covered so much ground, from the power of those nonverbal cues to the secrets of likability, and even the tricky art of spotting deception. It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has, and I hope our Crush Talk listeners are feeling inspired to put some of these insights into practice.
Remember, the journey of understanding human behavior is ongoing. The more we practice, observe, and approach our interactions with curiosity and compassion, the more fulfilling our relationships will become.
So keep practicing those warmth cues, try out those power poses, and don't forget to share a genuine smile.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Crush Talk. We'll see you next time, where we'll be tackling a whole new passion and turning it into a conversation you won't want to miss.